guys, it is Sonia the Creator, and today I have a book that I read this week that I want to talk about. So here I go. So basically, I was in a group on Facebook. Well, I'm still in the group on Facebook. I don't really do social media, but I do Facebook. Even though I know it's dead, and I know this is where your grandparents are now on and all this stuff, but I still like it for writing purposes and promoting my books and stuff. So I was on Facebook, and somebody's promoting the book, and I said, I have a new book I want to promote. I want you to read it. You should check it out, blah, blah, blah. It's supposed to be inspiring. So I said, okay, I'll support this writer. I don't know you, but I'll support you. I'll purchase this book, I'll read it, and I'll write a review. So this is my review on said book. The book is called Someone to Love Me by Courtney Hollins. Someone to Love Me, Courtney Hollins. You can see. Now, initially, when I saw this cover, I said it was a romance book. I didn't read the back. I didn't read the blurb. I didn't read anything about the book. I said it was a romance because it looks like this woman is having an intimate moment with someone. She's like breathing in his essence or what have you. And then she had paint and stuff on her face. I said maybe she was a painter in love and they're having a romantic moment in this art studio or something. Just look at the cover. That's what I thought. If I knew it was anything else, I wouldn't have bought it probably. But that's what I thought. A romantic moment in an art studio. It looks like she's being pleasured right now. That's what I thought. Not that I was interested in buying a spicy book, but if it was spicy, it was romance, I like it. But that's not the case. First things first, the book was dedicated to the author's father, which I thought that was sweet because my father passed, and I said, I wrote a book about my father too. Well, not about him, but in memory of him as well. So I said, oh, that's sweet. And then she says, this book is dedicated to inspire women, to let them know that they are enough. And I said, oh, that is so sweet. That's so nice. This book is going to be great. It's going to be inspiring. I'm going to leave here ready to run a race or a marathon or a triathlon or something. Despite the cover, because the cover is very deceiving. So let's open it up and see what's in here. First thing I noticed is that there's an author's note in the front. I like my author's notes to be in the back, so I ignored it until after I actually read the book. Now, about this book. First off, it's messy from the very beginning. I was telling my friend, he asked me what I was doing, and I said, I'm reading some messy book. And he's like, why is it messy? I said, because, okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of the story. I said, because the main character's mom is a side chick. And he's like, yeah, that is probably a messy story. And I said, yeah, it's a messy story. He has a whole other family. And it's just messy. I don't like messy books like this. But I pushed myself to keep reading. And so three chapters in, I was like, this story kind of foretells itself. I don't want to read this anymore. This would have been on my never finished reading list. I would have just started it, read through chapters, put it down, and gotten a new book. But because I said that I was going to review this book, I decided to keep reading. So I was literally forcing myself to read this book. I literally had so many breaks to eat and snack and do all this stuff while reading this book. Normally, if I get a book that I really, really, really like, there's no eating, there's no bathroom breaks. There's reading this book until it's done. This book I read over 3 or 4 days because I just couldn't keep my focus on it because I just didn't care about the character. So there's that. The first thing I noticed about this book was that it was dated. Now, Sonny, what does that mean, dated? Just like I said, it's dated. So the main character has her own landline in her room. Now you would be saying, okay, well, she can have a landline. Maybe she's a kid. She has a landline. Okay. I don't know how many kids around now have a landline. I don't even think kids even know what a landline is. First off, this book is dated. It is dated. Who has a landline? But let's imagine that kids still have landlines. They don't, but let's imagine they have landlines. Okay, let's get past that. Then, as the character gets older, first of all, I forgot to mention also what I did not enjoy about this. This is a coming of age story. So we basically know the character's whole life up until from the time before her conception as a side chick's child to the point where she's graduating college. And everything between, that's what we're reading the book at. So I'm like, okay, first, I don't like coming to age stories, even though I wrote one myself. I don't like them. I don't like them. So that was another strike. But I'm not the target audience for this book, so that's okay. Somebody will enjoy this book. I'm just not the one. Okay, so it's also dated because whenever there's a party or something like that, the author said it was, or the author/narrator said that it was off the chain. Off the chain. I said, oh no, I know she didn't just date this even further back. Off the chain? Now, I'm a millennial, but I know better than to put off the chain in a book. Kids nowadays call it lit. Getting lit, litty, whatever the kids say, but not off the chain. Off the chain is like saying off the hook or saying it's my jam. It's just, it dates the book. It dates it. And I feel like because it was published in 2025, she could have easily edited her language to make it sound a little bit younger, just a little bit. Now, this woman that wrote it, I don't know how old she is. In her picture, she looks like she can be late 30s if she's in her 30s. I'm talking 39, about to turn 40, late 30s to early 50s. I know that's a big gap, but I'm not good at telling black people's ages. So between 39 and 50, that's how old this woman is that wrote this book. So off the chain, I was just mad at that. And then whenever somebody would call somebody else, they would talk about the landline. Once again, I didn't really care for that. They talked about email, which was okay. I don't know too many young people that are emailing. That's still kind of an older person thing, but we're going to leave that alone. Unless it's for work, we don't really email, just for kicks and giggles. We text message. In the middle of the book, which really sent me over, and I was just kind of like, okay, I'm done with this book. I don't need it anymore in my life. It's just too much. She talked about a floppy disk. Now, I'm a millennial, so I remember floppy disks. I use floppy disks. I used to have my own secret diary on my computer with a floppy disk. But most people my age, if they weren't given the luxury to have a computer, they definitely didn't use a floppy disk. People younger than me didn't use a floppy disk. I think she even mentioned a typewriter. Oh, goodness. I used a typewriter, but most people did not use it. I'm just like, she's dating this book. Like, if it was written in the 1900s, the late 1900s and 90s, okay, then say that. But come on now. It's copywritten in 2025. You could have updated the language just a little bit. Just a little bit. You didn't have to change the whole story. Just update it a little bit. Next thing that kind of got me, the main character's name is Sasha. Sasha had a tough life. A very tough life. And at no point in time did she write the life getting better throughout the whole story. Every time something good happened to Sasha, you would find out later on that it was really something sinister behind it. And I'm just thinking, like, at the beginning of the book, didn't you say this was supposed to inspire somebody? Like, I'm not inspired. I'm feeling a little depressed, like, reading your book. Like, there's so many other books I could have read that that would have inspired me or did something to me, but this is not it. I'm used to romance. This is not it. I'm not the target audience for this one. I just knew I wasn't the target audience for this one. And so, that every time something almost good happened to this girl, something bad twice the times would happen to her. And I was just waiting for the time where something good would actually happen to her and it will stay good. But at no point in time in the book did we get that relief. And I'm like, who wants to read a whole story about tragedy and call it inspiration? Now, I know in the beginning of the book it says that this is supposed to be inspiring to people and let them know that they are enough and they are loved and they are wanted and all this stuff. But like at no point in time in the book, besides the first page, did you put anything in there that says that they're enough. And then the main character, which I didn't personally care for, she didn't go to church. Now, my books are Christian inspired, meaning that I'm a Christian and I can't help but put God in my books. But when she did write about God, she said that he didn't exist. And I was like, nope, you obviously got the wrong one. You don't want me to be reading this book. You don't want me reading this book. Because you're talking about my God now. I don't care if this is a fictitious book or not. You're talking about a real living God not being real because she's going through some stuff. So it got my blood going a little bit. The character, she didn't go to church because her father, who had her as a bastard, he went to church, so she didn't go to church, and she didn't believe that God was real because she was going through a bunch of stuff in her life. And I'm just like, that's stupid. But everybody has their own interpretation of what's what, even though it's oh goodness. So yeah. What else happened in the book? So the book was dated. It was blasphemous. There was no comedic relief. There was no love relief. There was nobody in this fictitious person's life that loved them, really. Even the mama, I feel like we could have developed that character a little bit more because, yeah, she's a side chick and she's depressed about it. But what else? She had to have something else in her life that made her smile. She didn't have no hobbies. She didn't pour into her child. She just liked her baby daddy because he gave her money. Like, I feel like, okay, what else? And the character Sasha, she was, even though she had supposedly a lot of money from her daddy who was never there, she wasn't happy. And I'm like, even if my daddy wasn't there, even though my daddy is always with me, even if my daddy wasn't there, I wouldn't be depressed solely because he wasn't there. I would be more depressed for other things. But like if you're taken care of and everything else is there, like it just wasn't realistic for me. And at the end, she had discussions saying, okay, what's the effect of not having a father in your life? And I'm just thinking, like, there are plenty of well-rounded people that didn't have their daddy growing up in their lives. Plenty. Now, maybe you weren't one of them, and I'm sorry that happened to you. But there are plenty of well-rounded, successful, happy, thriving people that didn't have fathers in their lives because they had a mama that held it down, or they had an auntie or a grandma or somebody that held it down. And in the story, she has a grandma, she has a grandpa, I think. She has cousins, but it's like none of them, the author didn't write any of those people to actually build her up, which I thought was crazy because a grandma would build up their grandchild. That's just how they're built. Especially because this grandma wasn't as toxic as the mom. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave it alone because I would have wrote it a different way. And then there are certain traumatic things that happen in this book. Like really, really, really traumatic things happen in this book, and nowhere is it mentioned that she went to therapy. Now, I know, contrary to popular belief, y'all, I'm not gonna say y'all, because y'all probably go to therapy too, but Black people go to therapy. They have been to therapy. They go to therapy. They recommend therapists. And they usually, if they go to therapy, they usually send their children to therapy because they don't want them messed up. Because now you never know what's going on in a child's life. Send them to therapy, and they usually get it situated before they become adults. Nowhere in this book does it mention going to therapy, or somebody recommending a therapist, or even a school counselor. No one recommended any of this. So you telling me this girl's going through the most traumatic thing in her life, and ain't nobody there? Nobody. No one. That's crazy. And it's not realistic. Because even in a person's life that has nobody, there's somebody looking out for them at school. Even if they're paid to look out for them, they're looking out for them. Even if they don't go to church, there's somebody that can talk to them that knows God. Even an atheist will tell you to cheer up. Or one of those spooky people will be like, oh, the universe feels like whatever. Here's a crystal for whatever, I don't believe in crystals healing people and stuff like that. Yeah, God made them, but I don't think he used them for what you guys are using them for. I think you guys are witches that do that. But even if she had no other outlet, like, there was somebody that she could have turned to. So I just don't think it was realistic. I don't think the book did what she wanted to do. In my opinion, it didn't uplift me. It made me depressed. I can't relate to that type of life. I can't. I never had a hard knock life. And my daddy was always there. But even if he wasn't there, I still feel like I would still have a decent life. But she had these questions at the back of the book, like, how did not having a dad impact Sasha's life? And I'm like, I don't think the daddy was the issue. I don't think it was an issue. Having boundaries and self-control and having self-confidence, sure, the father affects that a little bit, but she could have got that on her own. She could have got it from seeing other people. Another thing is, in the book, all the characters that she looked up to were light-skinned. And I thought that was an issue. The boy she liked, he was caramel-colored, sand-colored. The one boy that she liked that was Hershey-colored did her wrong. It's just kind of like, okay, well, because she was Hershey-colored. That's what the color that she called herself, Hershey chocolate-colored. And I'm like, okay, so is this supposed to uplift dark-skinned girls? Like, make somebody in there love dark-skinned girls. Like, someone to love me, like, make somebody in there love dark-skinned girls. Because there are plenty of men that love dark-skinned women. Even if he's white. Loves some dark-skinned women. Loves some chocolate-skinned women. Loves some caramel-skinned women. Loves some regular light-skinned women. Like, I feel like if this book is supposed to be meant to uplift people, then it needs to uplift people. And this just depressed me. I don't want to read this again. I don't want to look at it again. I'm not going to recommend it to anybody because it was so depressing. I don't feel like anywhere in this book did it make me feel like, I'm good enough. It made me feel like, man, I'm glad I'm not Sasha. But that's my take on it. There are more things in this book that I just did not like at all. There are more things in here, but if I keep talking about it, I'm gonna give away the book. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I should give away the book so nobody else has to go through what I went through while reading it. But I'm gonna leave that alone. If you want to read the book and debate me or talk about it, read the book and then we can talk about it some more. But it wasn't for me. It wasn't intended for me. It was outdated and it was very harsh and traumatic, and there was no relief for it at the end which I was hoping for because the whole book was traumatic. It's not like, you remember when we read For Color Girls, who considered committing suicide, but when the rainbow wasn't enough, or some, I can't remember the whole title, but For Color Girls, remember? Color Girls had an ending in which these women came together and loved on each other. This book did not. It didn't. For Color Girls was traumatic, man. It was traumatic. It was teaching a lesson. It was encouraging. It was inspiring. And at the end, these women came together. At the end of Someone to Love Me, this did not have a For Color Girls ending. Did not have a For Color Girls ending. Even the woman that lost her 2 kids in For Color Girls, like, she even had a ending. And the one that was taken advantage of, she even had an ending. And the one that lost her baby or had the baby taken from her womb, she even had an ending. And it's just like, this book was traumatic, but there was no glimpse of a happy ending for her. Yeah, she went to college and graduated, but the girl needed therapy. But that's all I'm gonna say about this book. That's all I'm gonna say, because I don't want to be rude. Everybody has their own way of telling their own story, and I'm not gonna say that the way you told it was wrong. I just feel like you missed some things, and it was dated. You missed some things that should have been added. Yeah, that's it.